Have you been struggling to stay active? While there's numerous options available, finding an engaging one can be difficult. So let's talk about Freebeat Xbike. I'm James Hertz from MUO, and we're going to talk about Freebeat Xbike and the gamified workouts, and whether it's worth checking out to get you moving. Before discussing anything else, we need to talk about whether this riding experience will fit in your home. So the Freebeat Xbike takes up a floor area of just 5.4 feet squared, so this allows for both spacing and maneuverability. It also only emits 35 decibels of noise during operation, so it's largely distraction-free. Now, the bike frame itself weighs 99 pounds, but if you're moving it, there are some wheels at the front that you can tilt the bike and help relocate to different areas. Freebeat recommends that you do this with 2 people, but I was able to do it safely by myself between small spaces. So if you're moving it room to room that's pretty close together, you won't have a problem. Now, on a personal level, let's talk about some of the user specifications, especially if you're sharing this bike with multiple users. It handles a height range of 4'11" to 6'4", and it handles a maximum weight of 297 pounds. Now, I hit almost the upper threshold of the height, and I was at about the median of the weight, and I found this to be pretty accurate throughout testing. At this point, I want to touch on the setup process for the Freebeat Xbike. If you're looking to get a preview of what it's like, you can either head to the Amazon listing or the Freebeat website and check out their manual there. Overall, I found the process to be very one-to-one with the instructions, but there are 2 notes that I want to acknowledge. First off, on the saddle there are 2 seat affixing nuts on either side. This keeps the saddle straight and flush while you're riding. Now, I was using the included wrench that came with the Freebeat Xbike to tighten these nuts, but I was never able to get it tight enough, so my first few rides I had to deal with the seat pivoting back and forth as I was going between the 3 different positions. So what I would advise here is to use your own wrench with a tighter grip so you can really get it tight enough that there's not any motion. Now, another thing I want to touch on is the actual monitor. At the back there is a screw hole, and I believe I encountered a manufacturing defect. It wasn't able to thread through easily because it didn't seem like the machine cut went all the way through. So again, this is just something I want to touch on, and you probably won't experience, but those were my only issues during installation and setup. With those things in mind, let's start talking about what the bike itself offers, and we'll do so by starting with the screen. It's a 1080p touchscreen that's 21.5 inches across it. So a thing I found about it is it's really quite snappish and responsive, so if you're making adjustments during live workouts, there's no problem there, or if you're just navigating the home screen and tracking things like performance, you can do so very easily. It also offers 180 degrees of rotatability, so you can adjust it to whatever position you need, whether you're on or off the bike. However, there are some downsides to this very large touchscreen. If you're trying to stream your content to it, you can't do this. It's solely there to run Freebeat software. Now, if you don't have a subscription, this largely makes the very large screen pointless. However, as a trade-off, there is this relatively large handrail cover, so you can fit something like an iPad or your cell phone very snugly and use that as a surrogate. Now, let's move on to talking about the speakers here. Now, there are 2 10-watt speakers, and these are controlled by 2 very large volume buttons. Now, personally, I prefer to use the Bluetooth 5.0 on the device to listen via my wireless earbuds, but they are adequate if you are using them otherwise. But if you're wanting to ride quieter, you can definitely take advantage of the Bluetooth. Now, since you're largely gated to what Freebeat is offering, let's talk about what the new user experience looks like. So once you've signed up and made your account, once you log into the home screen, it's all about getting you quickly into classes, but there are some metrics and information you want to pay attention to there as well. There is a weekly progress tracker, so you can tell if you're doing better or if you've fallen off a little bit. There's also access to notifications, so you can check when your instructors upload new classes, and you can also set a playlist of the classes you want to complete next. Also, something I really appreciate is when you are a new user, I did have access to a repetition of the basic training class. So if you're trying to figure out unfamiliar terminology and the metrics by which you're judged while doing the gamified workouts, you can re-experience this as a new user. So let's talk about some of the other things you can touch upon before jumping into classes with your instructors. First off, there is a built-in performance screen which will allow you to track your progress across different months as well as set weekly goals. I found this really flexible because if you're trying to figure out your ideal routine, you can really set your goal as needed. Now also there is a very basic settings menu, and this can allow you to do things like adjust your Wi-Fi connectivity, set up your Bluetooth, and adjust things like volume and brightness. Now, the one thing I do really want to acknowledge is if you are managing your subscription and checking it via the settings menu, you can check things like how many of the 10 user accounts are currently being used. But if you want to cancel a subscription or something like that, you cannot do it via the screen itself. You're going to have to go to Freebeat's website. Now, I want to interject here and talk about the riding guide that's nestled in the settings menu of the Freebeat Xbike. Now, the riding guide is your all-access manual to using the device. Originally, it only came with how to adjust your bike and kind of just set it up for use. But it's recently expanded to include things like positions and different exercises that you can do while riding. Now, this is good because in the past, you would run into unfamiliar terminology and your instructors would just jump into positions you may not have a basic understanding of. So I'm really glad they're dedicating time to upgrading this so users can go in more prepared. I still would like to see more of the user interface's basic terminology defined in this riding guide, but I do think the improved instructional training video has done a good job with this thus far. Let's touch on some usability features of the Freebeat Xbike. Starting with the handlebar, it does have a comfortable grip on it, so as you are alternating between the three primary positions in your workouts, you're going to have a comfortable grip throughout. In terms of resistance, it is a magnetic resistance type and it is operated manually via this plastic red lever. I was a little concerned with the build quality at first glance, but in using it across my different workouts, I found no problem with the responsiveness of it. Now, I want to go on and talk about the pedals. The pedals have a Velcro strap attached, so they can work with any suitable workout shoes. So you can use your everyday tennis shoes. This complements already the budget friendliness of the Freebeat Xbike because you don't have to buy any expensive cycling shoes to use it. As for adjustability with the Freebeat Xbike, there is some uniformity depending on what you're doing. If you're adjusting the handlebar height or the seat height, it's a matter of loosening a lever, pulling it forward, and then lifting up or down to adjust to the appropriate height. Now, if you're adjusting the seat depth, it is a slightly different method. So once you unscrew the mechanism, you will slide the seat forward or backward. Now, I did find a slight issue with this. Occasionally the sliding mechanism would stick, so I wouldn't be able to get it moving back and forth. So I would have to jiggle it and work a little more to finagle it so it was adjusting as needed. So if I did have to adjust my seat depth, this was a minor inconvenience. But again, this may be a minor manufacturing defect that you won't have to deal with. Now, before really talking about the class divide with the 3B experience, I want to touch on some generalities that are common between each type. First off, there is a wide range of instructors with different personalities, so if you're after tougher love and more forced improvement, there are instructors for that, as well as encouraging ones that are just trying to get you to go as hard as you can. Now, beyond this, it's all about the gamified workouts as well as the virtual environments. So you do have a very gaming focused setup with the Freebeat classes. So it's all about getting the ideal cadence, getting on rhythm, and scoring high on that leaderboard. You can either challenge people directly, or you can just go and compete with the leaderboard live and see where you fall. At the end of each class, you're going to see where your performance lined up and how far you are from the next position. Now, there are some things I want to mention about this. First off, there are no live classes on Freebeat. It is all on-demand classes. So what you're dealing with is a bunch of classes that can be paused or resumed as needed for your schedule. Ideally, Freebeat wanted you to hit around 12 hours per month in their ideal scenario. So it's a bit like hitting a 15-minute class per day based off your schedule, and you can resume and pause as needed. So it's very flexible for someone that has issue keeping something like a dedicated gym schedule up. Now, there is another note I want to mention. Previously, they allowed you to sort classes by difficulty, But now, beginner and intermediate are terms you'll see on the class list, but it's not something you can sort by. Now, does this bother me? Not so much. It's mostly because, while these work as guideposts, I never found them to be exactly true. Really, you're going to find some variance based off the instructor with these difficulties, but again, you can use them as a basic metric to test your progress. Overall, I found the classes to be challenging and pushing. But again, this is going to vary based off your level of fitness. Some people are going to be able to do it much easier than others, but every pedal step is going to matter. Now, with those generalities out of the way, let's start talking about the class divide. And we're specifically going to start with the riding classes because that's the main focus of the Freebeat Xbike experience. Now, first off, I want to note that the duration amounts are either in brackets of 15 or 30-minute intervals. So you can choose whatever really suits your schedule at a time, while again respecting that these are on-demand classes, so you can pause if there's something in your life that interrupts your workout routine. Now, other things I do want to acknowledge is about those virtual workout stages which supplement the gaming-based workout regimen. Now, Freebeat does some interesting things with this, so you do get the kind of generic gaming style virtual workout stages, but they also do holiday-focused events. Now, this ties into the sense of community that Freebeat offers with the cycling classes. There is a leaderboard that shows up for friendly competition. But again, if you're just riding to improve, you can also ignore these elements. So if you're riding in a class, you can tap off the leaderboard and even turn off metrics like the cadence and rhythm, and just ride and listen to the instructor and complete a workout without any stress. Now, another thing about the riding classes is you can really find a music genre that suits you. Some categories are more represented than others. EDM, for instance, has less songs than pop at the moment. But with Freebeat, one of the things I really do like is they're continuously adding and expanding that library, so you can find a bit of everything you want. Now, there are some trade-offs, honestly, with these classes. If you're not really into the gaming regimen and it's not something that will keep you continuously motivated, then you may find less value overall in the classes that are offered. But if you're looking for something different and something with a really tight focus, then I do like what Freebeat has done with the classes for riding. Now let's talk about the other section of classes, the sculpting classes, which covers things like your basic strength training classes. What I do like about these classes is you can sort them between training types as well as things like what targeted areas of your body you want to work out with. But there is a specific note I want to acknowledge about these classes. So their core integration works with the Freebells, which are Freebeat's smart motion tracking dumbbells. Now, the only way you can get these Freebells is either you can purchase them originally with the bike, or you can get them via redemption officer when purchasing via Freebeat's website. You can't purchase them separately, which is a bit of a frustration point, and I'll tell you why. First off, my testing unit didn't come with it, which isn't a big deal. But there is a mode that I've noticed added to your strength training classes, which is a multiple users mode. So if you want to work together and get it all tracked and saved to one Freebeat account, you can't do so unless multiple users are purchasing multiple Freebeat devices. So again, this is a trade-off if you're wanting to pair, but again, it's not really a killer. So as a surrogate, I just use my own 5-pound dumbbell, and then I use the fitness tracker to exactly track things like calorie count and the duration of my workout with the weights. Obviously, this may not be efficient, and I would really like to see Freebeat offer them as a separate purchase down the line. So you want to consider if this is really a focus point for you, or if you just want to focus on the cycling itself. Now, with the Freebeat Xbike, there's going to be inevitable comparisons to Peloton. Now, there's obvious reasons for this. The Freebeat Xbike subscription is $39 like Peloton's all-access subscription. But there's also a blending of things. The Freebeat Xbike does have the rotatable screen, and it does combine both strength as well as cycling classes like Peloton's Bike Plus. So the question is, what are you looking for with the Freebeat Xbike, and does it stand out from Peloton? Now, first off, is foremost a much cheaper alternative. If you are looking for a cheaper Peloton clone, there's not going to be things like live classes or scenic rides. You're not going to get that full nuanced Peloton experience, but instead you get what Freebeat offers. And it's a very focused and very tight-knit community growth via competition with its gamified workouts and virtual workout stages. So you're going to be going more for that and some of the core features that Peloton offers, but at a more budget price. And if you're willing to grow with the Freebeat community, it can be a great place to stay. But again, you're going to have to weigh how much that subscription is worth the money in your wallet and whether you should keep investing month to month. With this all acknowledged, the question is whether you should purchase Freebeat's Xbike. It is a very affordable at-home cycling option, and it does have a very tight-knit focus on its core identity and what it wants to sell to its members. Its positive and energetic instructors help along this way, and if you liked the gamified workouts, there's very little reason not to choose it. So at the end, I do think the community and some of the Freebeat software has a little room to grow, but if you don't mind being an early adapter, I think it can be a good option for you. Now, I want to thank Freebeat for providing the Xbike testing unit. And for everyone watching, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And if you want to read a more in-depth review of the Freebeat Xbike, be sure to check out our written review at makeuseof.com.